Web3, it gives an opportunity for those ethics to come back.
Now, but Web3 is one of the solutions, one of,
Right.
and it resolves a lot of the issues that we have. The relationship that you have with money is very, very similar to the relationship that you have with love.
What's up, guys? Happy Saturday. Thank you for spending some time with us. For those of you that were on Women in Web3, then you spent some time with Corinne yesterday, and maybe it's the first time that you ever see either one of us, which is cool too. Welcome. We're going to be friends. But I absolutely love you guys for hosting these Saturdays calls, especially being consistent. I think that's the hardest part. I think consistency is really like, that's the secret that everyone's looking for. If you survive here for like a couple of years and go through the rough patch, then everything is going to seem all gravy after that.
Yeah, thank you all so much for having us here. Thank you so much, Alex, Gil, and shout out to you guys and the service that you're giving everybody every single week, not even just on Saturdays. Actually, today's my Sabbath day. So normally I don't work Saturdays, but this doesn't work for me. This is serving. This is getting to be here with my friends, with our new friends that are seeing us for the first time. So it's just awesome to be here. We appreciate you all. And maybe we should start off with Web3. Nancy, what got you, what's the first thing, before we get into the nitty gritty, what's the first thing that like really attracted you to like Web3?
I just want you to know that by asking this question, like, I'm already, you already know I'm about to go off for a little bit. What got me started or what attracted me into Web3 was everything that it stood for. Number one, it was different. We haven't had a change in the financial system since 1913. Like, that was over 100 years ago. And I'm someone like many of you that want change, that desire something new, that desire growth. So when I kind of came to the realization on my own that we hadn't, as a society, as a global society, not just like a continental US type of thing or a culture type of thing. No, as a global society, we hadn't changed the financial system in over 110 years. That was like, well, that's strange. That's kind of weird considering
And it's not
all,
working.
and it's not working. Exactly. Like, if this was a business, which it is, as a business auditor, I'd be like, well, you're failing at what it is that you claim to do because you're not doing it. Where is the change? Where is the evolution? There is none. We've just kind of accepted this as it is and then just kind of hope like we have no other option but to go with it, basically, until somebody creates something new, which is what Satoshi Nakamoto created in 2008. So that was one of the biggest things. Another thing would just be ownership and decentralization. I don't know if anyone here, I imagine that we're all in alignment, but I like my freedom. I like ownership. I like being able to do what I want when I want. I have a little bit of a problem with authority, not always, but when they're overstepping. And for the first time in the financial sector, it seemed like there was a little bit of a revolution. Like someone had rebelled against the conventional fiat system, which, like Corinne said, hasn't been working because there's this thing called inflation and it doesn't work in our favor. It works against us. So we have to work, like literally work harder in order to just combat that. And we've seen that in the recent years. And of course, I got started in Web3 prior to all of this happening. So when pandemic did happen, it was just a confirmation. And I don't know if anyone else kind of looks for those kind of confirmations from your creator, whatever it is that you believe in. But I was just like, oh my gosh, I am so grateful that I got started before all of this, because this was just a confirmation that I'm in the right place, that I'm doing the right thing, that I'm on my way. And like the boys said before, it wasn't given. It wasn't like, oh, here, Nancy, here's your success right off the rip. Absolutely not. Like, the one thing that I want you guys to know is that it took me years to earn a dime in the financial markets. Now, hopefully that's not the case for everyone. I think I just had a little bit of a self-sabotage in the beginning, but I still figured this is going to play out. And I mean, I'm forever grateful for whatever it was inside of me that told me to stay and to continue like going on. You know how they say, keep on going. I'm forever grateful for that, because not only did my life change, my family's life change. And I don't just say that economically. Economically, it was a blessing, don't get me wrong. But everything that came with it, the mindset change, the growth, the perspective change, the conviction change, the willingness to just go against the grain sometimes and see how it plays out instead of just giving in right off the bat. Like it literally, I feel like it changes your brain chemistry. And maybe Corinne can go in a little bit about that since she has a medical history. But in terms of what got me involved in Web3 was just honestly seeing something different, seeing someone, I don't know how censored we are here, but just seeing someone give a shit, to be completely like blunt. It's like, cool, someone's finally stepping up against the big dogs. Or, you know, there's some conspiracies that maybe Satoshi Nakamoto is actually the government. I don't know. But at least we're trying something different at minimum. So for me, it was that.
Yeah, and no, for everybody here, like Nancy and I love to dive into the whys, the reasoning behind things, because it's when you actually understand the reasons and the why you're doing something that you then go and take that action, that then you go and do that consistency. And that's why we like to tap into that. And I think that you said some really important things. First of all, I will say, even if it was some CIA that created Bitcoin and that was Satoshi Nakamoto, Bitcoin now is so powerful and has been given into the hands of so many of the average person. You guys can go in our sessions and watch where we teach on blockchain nodes, Bitcoin mining, etc. That even if they created it, it's like almost, it's too late. Like the people have taken over. And for those that are new here, Bitcoin was the first cryptocurrency that was ever created in 2008. Think about what happened in 2008. I think, but there was a massive housing crash, financial crash in 2008. And obviously that was a big like red flag. We have a really big issue. And so Bitcoin was created in 2008, launched then in 2009, and has been growing and expanding ever since. It is the most decentralized cryptocurrency or currency in general that there is. And what I love about Bitcoin and what I love about Web3 is that it's bringing power back to the people. Nancy and I love to say we're freedom maxis. We love freedom. We love that every time that we go out and put work and receive it back in the form of something like Bitcoin, we're in ownership of our money, of our energy that we have gone and put out. For those people that are a little bit newer here, maybe you don't know, but every time that you put money in the bank, I know we all have our bank apps, we go there, we see the amount in there, right? You know that it's not actually that dollar sign, euro sign. I'm not sure how international we are here in this call today. Yes, we are. So all the different currencies, no matter which bank you're putting your money in, your money is not sitting there waiting for you. You're lending that money to the bank. That money, they're going, they're trading it, they're investing it, they're giving it out as loans. So your money is not actually there in ownership, yours. It's given, lended to the bank, and they're using it. So when we look at something like Bitcoin, and because I think Alex earlier you started talking about Australia, and I'm Australian. Australia, for example, is one of the biggest countries that's shifting digitally. But for example, there's actually staying a lot in some of the older concepts of Web 2, meaning centralization, where a lot of people are trying to go and get their cash out of the bank. Their cash, their hard-earned money, they're going to work every day and doing the thing, but they're being asked, why do you need this money? Sorry, we need some extra days to give you your money. And these sorts of things, Nancy and I are like, it's time for a change. It's time for a change. So before we dive into the nitty gritty, I just thought that we should look at something like this. And I heard the boys mention some of these projects already earlier and some shifts. So in a very simple way, we can start to look at, and if you look on the left-hand side, you guys probably know a lot of these. These are I'm going to say they're outdated. They have a lot of problems. And now we're starting to shift to we're starting to shift to some of these Web3 apps. So for example, and this is a great one for each and every one of you to start, even if this is your first time hearing crypto, you can even start to download something like Brave browser. Maybe you used to Google Chrome, Safari. When you shift to something like Brave browser, it's an encrypted browser that actually has extra layers of security. And not only when you use Brave browser, so you're there, you're surfing the web, you're looking at all these different websites, you can actually get paid out and earn BAT token. So you can start earning while you're using something like Brave, which is really cool. We're all browsing the internet every single day. So there's already a little tip for you all. Is there something that stands out for you there, Nancy?
All of them.
Of course.
No, but she's absolutely right in terms of ownership, in terms of just disconnecting from, because here's the thing, like I think a lot of people just don't think about the things that we use on an everyday basis. Actually, I'm going to name one that's not on here. For example, Instagram. Or do we have Shopify on here? No. Shopify or Instagram, if anyone has their own store, online store, and we ask you like, oh, what is it? Okay, let me backtrack here. The internet is one of the biggest spaces in the entire world, right? It's where everyone just comes online and you can go basically anywhere, like limitlessly almost, right? Depending on restrictions and whatnot. But it being so vast and so big, let me ask you this. How many things do you own on the internet? Some of you might say, well, I have my Facebook page. No, you don't. That's not you. That's Zuck. He owns it. And if he wanted to ever shut that down, he can just say the word and someone will press a button for him. You can say, oh, I have my online store. No, you don't. Shopify does. And if Shopify were to ever go away, ever sell to another company, ever go bankrupt or anything like that, that would all be shut down without your permission. They don't need your permission. You're using their service and they're in charge of their service. So that was another big thing and something that I think we just never thought of. Coming from a very Web2 mind, it's completely normal to not think of these things. But that's another reason why I love Web3, because it challenges us to think, well, how can we do things differently that actually benefits more people as opposed to just one or two or a group of board of directors? That's centralization, is everything needs to come back to this company or this person. Everything is centralized. But when it's decentralized, more people win. One that actually I really do love is Audius. So Audius, for example, it gives more royalties back to the actual artist. Like, I don't know if you guys are like I'm sure you guys listen to music, but I don't know how deep you go into thinking of like what happens behind the scene for music. But when an artist becomes an artist, they don't have ownership over their music. Not kind of crazy? Like they're making it. They're making either, whether it be they're the face of it, the voice of it, they're the lyricist or the actual producer, they're still not in ownership of their music. Usually, artists have record labels and they are the owners of their music. So I'm not too involved in that niche, but to me, when I'm someone that likes to think of like the backside, the back end of just anything. So I always think like, oh, how does this work? How does this work? How does this work? And Web3 just makes sense to me. The people that are producing, the people that are making, the creators, they should get paid more. Because what would music be without artists? What would record labels, like what business would record labels have without artists? So Audius actually gives more royalties to the artists themselves. Things like NFTs, same thing, give more royalties to the artists themselves instead of them just getting a cut of their own art. So I absolutely love it. This is a breakdown basically of what Web 1, Web 2, and Web 3 are. Web 1 was the beginning. It was the welcome to the internet. Here's some HTML, here's some basic code. You can do limited things here. Then we moved very quickly, I think, into Web 2. And I also want to pause on this and just kind of bring something up again, in case we haven't thought of this in the before. But do you guys, maybe some of you remember, But in the beginning of the internet, people were mad skeptical. People were like, no, that's going to be fraudulent. Like, that's going to be where criminals go and scam and this, that, and the third. And people were afraid to add their card info on there. People were afraid to network on there because they just thought the worst, right? And look at where we are now. When was the last time you went an entire day without using the internet? I don't know. But that was Web 1. Web 2 was more interaction. It was more like, okay, I can actually do stuff on here. I can interact with others. I can communicate. I can engage. Social media boomed, right? In the early 2010s, I believe, maybe late 2000s, 2010s, you guys know. Facebook, MySpace, a bunch of other like pages, right? It allowed us to interact and socialize with one another. And that's kind of like curated a big part of a global culture. Like now we're the most connected that we've ever been because of the internet. However, we don't own a lot of things on the internet. So, Corinne, you can go ahead and explain the difference. Well, I guess reiterate the difference between Web 2 and Web 3, which is exactly where it is that we find ourselves. It's no longer the future. It is here. But go ahead, Corinne.
Present, absolutely. And I also like to zoom out and look at like Web 1 was the read only. Web 2 was when we actually were able to start, like Nancy said, like really like that social media, but it was like the interactions and people being able to interact with one another. And one of the biggest, I'm going to call it problems, issues that has come up with Web 2 that we're actually tackling a lot still very much in the present day is the centralization, as Nancy said, the ownership that a lot of people are working, creating content, putting things out, and it's not theirs and they're not reaping the rewards of it. And also a lot of, and I won't go down too much this topic, but even like the censorship and like who dictates that and how much of that are we allowed to or not allowed to say, right? So that's a really big and prominent issues that we're having today. So when we then start to step into something like Web 3 starts to bring, again, power back to the people. It's decentralized. It's where you don't have a middleman. It's where, like Nancy said, NFTs, imagine NFTing your music, your social media content. Maybe some of you guys are there posting photos, creating reels. We've got Alex dancing and doing his content creation dancing, right? Like they should get paid out for this rather than Meta, Zuckerberg choosing, oh, this is how much I'm going to pay them. And oh no, like I'm going to go and delete that one because it goes against the community guidelines. Those sort of things, right? So I think one of the biggest things, if we look at the solutions that Web3 is bringing, it's removing the middleman, it's bringing the power back to the people and the ownership back to the people. I might actually quickly also show this for anybody that is new, just so you understand some of these big words that we're talking about, because we love to break them down. So centralization is like what we've been talking about. Web 2 is what we currently have. So intermediary. There's not just one central point of control, but there's also a central point of failure. So like Nancy said earlier, Zuckerberg could go and press the button and turn everything off. Something could happen within Meta and everything shuts down. This also happens with banks. We've seen a lot of banks fail in these just past couple of years. There's the controlled transfer of assets. So there's a central entity that chooses who gets to transfer assets where, who gets to post media and information where, who receives what funds where, who's allowed to access it. And I think this is one of the coolest things about Web3 is that it does not matter who you are, where you come from, what your past is. Everybody gets to get a chance and gets to participate. And it's the everyday person that gets to choose where is the value going? Where is the attention going? I hope that makes sense. In the sense, let me just even explain Bitcoin. What makes Bitcoin have value? It's us. It's you and me. It's we choose. And why is Bitcoin growing? Because the people have chosen that. Why would a content creator that owns their own NFTs and content grow? because people are giving attention to that. It's the people choosing. So I kind of overlap there, but I hope that makes sense. And the other cool thing with I'm already jumping on decentralization. See, I'm so like solutions focused, I keep forgetting about the problems. So then one of the other things that we have with centralization is that there's always an identification process. We've got to know who you are, where you come from, what's your address, what's your social security, et cetera, et cetera. In decentralization Web3, what we have is no intermediary. It's distributed across people, like that effect that I was saying. It's about the people. Doesn't matter who you are, where you live, just as long as you have Wi-Fi, you get full access to Web3. Isn't it crazy how there are countries still to this day, certain people, just because they're born in a certain country, that they are not allowed access to certain things? Like if you're just born in a country that chooses, no, sorry, you're not allowed to have a bank account, you're not allowed to participate in the world economy. Sorry, you're going to be stuck here, not allowed to participate. That's wild to me in 2024. You'd think that we would have learned. So this gives the option, no matter where you come from, that you get access. It doesn't matter who you are. Again, we don't need your identification, and it is permissionless. So everybody gets access. Anything else you want to add on top of that, Nancy? Or
No, I think it's
well?
yeah.
Yeah. So should we go ahead?
Oh, I do want to add 3 things that we haven't spoken on yet. And I know that we're kind of like, this happens all the time, guys. Like Corinne and I start talking, and then next thing you know, we're at the end of the hour almost. We just get really excited with what it is that we talk about. But something that we haven't brought up yet is, okay, let me ask you guys this question. What is one of the biggest commodities in the entire world today? Yes. Okay, so let's go with that. The people, data. A lot of these apps that are some of the biggest companies in the entire world, like Meta, it's a free app. How do they have so much money? They're selling our data. We do not have control over our data or our privacy. They're selling it. So a lot of these are kind of like, that's why I feel like there's like a silent war going on over our privacy, our rights. Have you guys ever been talking to a friend about like, oh, I want some new shoes, or I want, I don't know, like anything, like dog food. And then next thing you know, like you go on Instagram and you start getting these sponsored ads. Here's this dog food you were looking for. They're listening. They're listening all the time, whether it is that you give them permission. Well, you do give them permission by using the app. Most of the time you could click a button, it's lost in the terms and conditions, and we just like, oh, that's fine. And we don't really think about it too much, but they're selling our data all the time. Lawsuit claims Facebook is sold users private. Yeah, exactly. Oh yeah, exactly. Now they're making a Netflix documentary. And are you guys gonna get a cut? Because I'm not getting a cut of that Netflix documentary. Anyone getting royalties? No? Well, we play a part in that. Like, I don't know if some of our messages are going to get leaked in that documentary, but point being is that we're giving them access to this information, and data is a huge commodity today because they get to sell it to companies that run the ads, and it's all a cycle. It's all an economy. It really is. The next thing that I wanted to bring up that we haven't directly said, but maybe indirectly said, is transparency. As an empath, as a human being, I would love for companies to be more transparent with what it is that they're actually doing. Let me see the receipts. Let me see where your money's going. Let me see how you package these goods. Let me see where the produce is coming from. Let me see what's being sprayed on my food. Anything. Because whether we realize it or not, our lives are affected most of the time by things that we have no control over. Unless you guys are farming at your own house and getting your medicine and your drugs at your own, like you know where everything is coming from, then good for you, more power to you.
We're not some women in Web3 where we go down those rabbit holes.
Yeah. But point being is like, I want transparency from these companies. Like P&G, Procter & Gamble, Johnson & Johnson, Comcast, BlackRock, let me see where you're spending money. If you guys think that the elections are just about 2 people running for office, I'm sorry to break it to you, but that is not it. It's not the people running for office, it's the campaigns that fund them. so that they can have the rules bent to their, what's it called? Like their own way. Anyway, we won't talk about that here because we'll be here for hours. Go ahead, Corinne.
One last thing though, guys, can you imagine? Imagine a world where every time that you pay something like taxes, everything is on the blockchain and you can see exactly where that money's going.
Easy
Oh,
fix.
like I'm paying taxes and our roads are getting fixed. Oh, I'm paying taxes and our healthcare system is improving. Oh, I'm paying taxes. And yes, people that are doing their job should get paid. But can you imagine if it was all transparent on the blockchain for everybody to see and follow? What a beautiful world that would be, because it would have to bring people with shared values, with just being fair and right. Like it just seems like such common sense. Like when Nancy and I talk about this on Women in Web3, we're like, how are we still here? Like it's right there.
And I do think that's kind of like, that's what we bring to the table as women. I'm sure a lot of you are also thinking the same thing, but again, I don't know how it's been over 110 years and we haven't had these changes being made. Actually, I do know. It doesn't benefit them. It just frankly doesn't benefit them. So I think Web3, it gives an opportunity for those ethics to come back because the people demand it, which takes me to my third thing that I wanted to bring up earlier is smart contracts. Web3 introduces smart contracts, which is basically a mechanism, an algorithm, if you will, that says that if this happens, it's programming. If this happens, then this will happen, and it cannot be edited. The thing with human beings, as awesome as we are, is that there is room for error because emotions come up, because we're naturally sometimes greedy as people. And we've seen that scale, right? Like, why does BlackRock need to own everything in the world? They don't. That's great for you. So having that transparency, having those smart contracts in place, maybe they would affect us as a society in a good way where it's not skewed or maneuvered or things aren't brushed under the rug, or just like there's so much opportunity for things to go wrong, but that also means that there's opportunity for things to go right, for things to benefit the people, as I believe thousands of years ago it was meant to be. We're supposed to work as a village. We're supposed to collaborate. We're supposed to, like, everyone plays their own role, but right now it doesn't feel that way. Unless, if anyone here feels like, yeah, the world is perfect, which sounds like I can't even say that with a straight face because there's just so much chaos going on, so many people being hurt, all because we can't ask for the receipts. How many politicians have had their emails erased and we can't do anything about it? They're still walking around free. What's it called? Insider trading, illegal. If you and I were to do it, we'd go straight to jail. But if you want to be a good trader, just get into politics. Because somehow everyone just knows when to get in and when to get out and what to get into. How do they know? I don't know, but I would like for this to be a fair game. And I think Web3, it starts to introduce that. Like, hey, we can be playing a fair game. Here are the rules. Everyone plays by the same rules. There's no favorites. There's no puppeteering or anything like that. Play on. And at least it's an equal opportunity for everyone. That's another thing that we haven't mentioned, is blockchain doesn't discriminate. Doesn't care where you're from, what background you have, if you have a degree or not, the piece of paper behind you, it doesn't care. Doesn't matter if you're super busy or if you're sitting on the couch, it doesn't discriminate. What the market is going to show you is actually going to be a reflection of you. And then we come back to the conversation at the beginning of how we've changed as people. I think the best way to get the most out of the market is to open yourself up and put yourself in that opportunity to want to see the change. Okay, there's room for growth here. Okay, I'm being a little impatient. Why? Okay, I'm being a little bit greedy. Why? What's my relationship with money? Then we can go down an entirely different conversation about our education and money. Or I should say the lack of education and money. I went to a private school in the hood, but nonetheless private. And I wasn't taught about taxes. I wasn't taught how to invest. I wasn't taught how to be patient. I wasn't taught how to work with my emotions so I don't like have an outburst or an adult tantrum. But maybe if I put myself in an environment, whether it be that environment just be the chart, then here I am, 29, learning about myself, learning about the world, and learning about how we can better it. And I think that's a beautiful opportunity. So I don't think that everyone has to do crypto, but I think it's a good idea to at least open yourself up to seeing things in a different light.
Nancy on fire today. She's like got some channeling going. I'm like, preach. I love it. Let's put some fire in the chat for Nancy. And you know, this is what you guys will see. You know, Nancy and I, as you can see from all the beautiful things that she's just shared, we love to identify problems, and there are many in the world right now, but Web3 is one of the solutions, one of, right. And it resolves a lot of the issues that we have. And that's why we're so passionate to teach these things, break things down in a simple, digestible way, because sometimes it can get a lot. And I think that out in the world, there is a lot of problem here, problem there, point, especially with this election coming up. But it's like, okay, so solutions, people, this is what we want to focus towards. So Web3, we love it for many reasons. We are so excited for each and every one of.
We have, you know, 2 quick questions that we can ask you guys before we wrap it up, if that's cool. But what we want to ask first, I also first want to ask the second one, but the first one I want to ask is, you know, obviously, you know, this is a space that's been around for a good amount of time. And the coolest thing is that both of you guys have led the way for the ladies out there to be, you know, go from being a student to being an educator. And that would be part of the second question. But for y'all's journey, you know, being in this space, coming in and seeing a lot of men come in and do this, and maybe like, oh, is it for me? Is it not for me? And your story is very powerful. Like, what would you say to the women out there that are new in the space, or maybe first time seeing crypto and they're like, yeah, that's not my thing. I'll leave that to the guys. You know, what would you say to a lady out there that wants to, but maybe fears that fear of like, this is complicated. This might be too much for me to kind of understand, or this might not be for me. So what would you guys say individually to the ladies out there so they can get some good, you know, insight of what's really possible?
Yeah. I think that I feel you and I understand you. And I was there when I first got started. It felt almost intimidating when I first got started. We didn't have any crypto women educators back then. And I thought, wow, like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this, but it was really getting around the community and seeing how we can break things down and make things really simple. And it's just the building blocks. I actually then through my journey learned and understood, and men, I send you so much love. Women, we have something special when it comes to our intuition, when it comes to emotions, when it comes to having that, I call it like a sixth sense. Like when I actually look at the market, when I start to look at my relationship with money being the same relationship that I have with love, it has been such a powerful shift in my life, in my mindset, in my family, in my relationships, friendships. And so I actually encourage women to come into this space as your true feminine self, as yourself, as exactly who you are. And crypto is such a broad range that you're going to find that thing that works for you. You're going to find that way that works right for you. This is such a personalizable, is that a word? I just made it up. It's such a space that you can personalize for yourself. And I'll repeat, because just in case anybody missed that, the relationship that you have with money is very similar to the relationship that you have with love. And as a woman, as natural mothers, I think that if we actually learn to step more into that, we can have so much success in this space. And for me, it's just improved every single area of my life. So how about you, Nancy?
Wow, I love that. The relationship that you have with money is almost the relationship that you have with love, and that can go deep. And I encourage you guys to watch like a video on YouTube, free, Bob Proctor, self-image. I invite you to go and do that on your own. But what I have to say is like, okay, ladies, I'm not here to be the person that you want right now. Just give me 5 seconds, maybe 50. I'm here to be the person that I think someone might need. And basically, being a woman is an excuse. I know that we see things differently. Some of us, not all of us, not all of us are in our feminine. Some of us can be a little bit more in our masculine. It's all energy anyway. But don't let that stop you. Like, we see things differently. Like Corinne said, we have different kind of intuition. We have a different type of mindset. We have a different type of psychology. In fact, some of the women on our teams are some of the best traders that I know. The more consistent ones, the more emotionally stable ones, maybe sometimes the more risk adverse ones, not the risky ones, but the ones that are a little bit more conservative and they think long-term, forward thinking. Not only that, guys, but when it comes down to the absolute basic, like, look, okay, for those of you that are in their faith, this book right here, it says, go out, be fruitful and multiply. What do we do as women? We multiply, we nurture. So don't let the numbers or the charts dismay you or discourage you from doing this, because it's all about being fruitful, nurturing your trading plan, putting a system in place, having the discipline to do so, doing it over a consistent period of time. Honestly, I really do believe that the hardest part is just getting over that first one or two bumps, being, I'm not good at this. And I can say that with absolute conviction because that was me. I thought, and I still say this to this day, I'm not good at math. I'm not good at finances. I'm not good with numbers. I'm not good with like too much logistics. But what if you did it anyway? What if you just didn't allow that to be your excuse? Here's what I have to say. When something is hard for me, I just have to do it more often and to get better at it. Maybe what took Alex 2 months to learn might take me 2 years to learn. But as long as I don't get myself out of the equation, I'm still in, baby. So I think that we can use our powers, our intuition, our nurturing, all of the good stuff that comes with being a woman and apply it here. Apply it to the charts. Apply your patience. Apply your beautiful vision here. Nurture this, nurture your plan, and watch it grow. The same way that we can multiply in other ways, which is a miracle in itself. If we can do, I haven't done this myself, by the way, I haven't given birth, but if we can do the literal hardest thing that there is to do, what does a chart have against you? Nothing. It's all mental. And sometimes that's why, like, the 6 inches between your ears, they can be our best friend or our worst enemy, but you get to decide. And that's why I like say right off the rip, look, guys, I didn't make money in my first couple of years. It was a hard, steep, uphill battle. But the proudest thing that the thing that I'm proudest of is just not taking myself away from the equation. That's it. I don't think I'm smarter than anyone here. Sometimes I'll just have these moments with Mike where I'm just like, what does that word mean? And it's like a simple word. And I'm just like, I don't know, my vocabulary doesn't work that way. I'm not the smartest. I'm not the most like book smart. I'm not even the most street smart. You don't have to be. So don't let that stop you from doing what it is that you want to do. Of course, if it is what it is that you want to do, use your superpower, go be fruitful and multiply. So that's what I have to say about women coming into any financial markets. And I love that you guys are interacting and just like, I hope this is reaching you, because there's such a big power in doing the little things. It's not about making $10,000 a day. It's not about having those big wins. And I think the best type of freedom is the freedom from external, like seeking that external validation. We don't have to go out there and be like, I have a Lambo and I'm rich and I'm driving my PJ or flying my PJ, whatever. We don't have to do that. My biggest motivation, my biggest inspiration is just having a soft life of freedom. And if I can do that from the comfort of my own home, with my family around, giving me more time to spend with my nieces and nephews and my parents that are everyday aging, let's not forget that our loved ones have an expiration date, then I'm going to do what I can to do that. And I'm not going to let this idea that somebody else put in my head stop me. So I encourage you not to do that too, or you guys know what I mean.
Oh, wow. Can we drop some fives in the chat for that? This was powerful. We're going to ask one more question. I'm right here like, yes, amen, like going crazy. Um, Now, I mean, you ladies have done a phenomenal job with this call with so much value that even myself, I'm like, wow, I have so much more to learn. And I think that's the beautiful thing is that we're constantly, no, these were beautiful questions. I mean, beautiful questions, but the answers were amazing, like phenomenal. Let's drop some sevens in the chat for both of them because, they took time even 20 minutes after, like, which is phenomenal. Like, we still have 57 on the call. Like, we're doing what we need to do. And I just thank you both for taking the time to serve, to help us be able to, grow again this community that started with 20 people literally 4 months ago, myself, Gil, and 20 people. And then we grew, I think with Kurt, I think we reached 200 close to it, where it's like we're growing, you know what I mean? We're doing things that we need to do. And, to the fact that we were able to, I remember me and Corinne doing calls like 2 years ago or something like that. So it's like to be able to see that the expansion of what we're doing inside this community with crypto and teaching everyone to love themselves within the process of where we're going, I think is absolutely beautiful. Because I feel like we go, but we don't love ourselves enough to even know where we're going. And so that's so important. And I think that's I'm definitely like, I love myself. I'm going there. Like, it just like, it makes me feel that way even more. So thank you both. Gil, I don't know if you want to say something, brother, but yeah, I love this call. This was phenomenal to finish out our educator series.
No, for sure. No, I definitely want to give more. I think there's a lot of value. The story that you guys gave, the what you guys are talking about and the advice you guys are giving is super powerful. And you guys are leading the way. I want you guys to know that y'all are leading the way for a lot of people. And I'm really grateful for everybody who hopped on today's call. Y'all got a lot of value. And if you're a home and take advantage of this space. So I appreciate y'all too for being on today's call. I appreciate you, Alex, for hosting these calls with me. And all of you guys are on today's call. We have 50 plus, an hour and 20 minutes in. You guys taking the time to take notes, guys. Definitely appreciate you guys. Put some nines in the chat if y'all got some value. But other than that, a lot of people will be there, and I'm very excited for what's to come. So again, appreciate you guys. You guys have a good one. And again, I appreciate y'all's time, Nancy and Corinne. And we'll see you guys soon. Peace.